Hey guys, welcome to the fourth part of my Dark Elves army review, and right now we're going to be looking at rare choices. So there are 5 in the new book. I'm going to go over which ones are good, which ones are bad, and how to use them most effectively. So the 5 rare choices, they're actually all brand new to the army book. All the other rare choices got moved into special. So what we've got is the Bloodrack Medusa, which is, I think, a great model. The Carabadis, if that's how you pronounce it, which is the alternative build for the Hydra. Then we have Doomfire Warlocks, the Bloodrack Shine, which is a mount for the Medusa, and then finally the Sisters of Slaughter, which are the alternative Witch Elves. So we'll start with the Bloodrack Medusa. I really think this is an awesome model, and I'm going to play with it either way, whether it's good or bad. I really want that on the table in my games. So it has all the same buffs as the elves, so it's the only monster that actually still gets murderous prowess and always strikes first, which is a nice buff. It's actually monstrous infantry. It's not actually a monster. Sorry about that. It also gains fear and frenzy, which fear is nice. Frenzy has its ups and downs. So we're looking at 90 points for a stat line of Weapon Skill 5, Ballistic Skill 5, Strength 4, Toughness 4, Initiative 5, 3 wounds, and 3 attacks, but it's only Leadership 2. Now, Frenzy with Leadership 2 has its issues, so the best thing to do with her is to babysit her with the General, unless you don't mind that it's going to charge off into the first thing it sees. So it has 2 special rules. One is Avert Your Gaze. So this takes effect in close combat. So at the start of each close combat, any model in base-to-base contact must pass an initiative test, or they take a strength 4 hit with killing blow. So on a 40mm base, you're gonna get 3 or 4 extra attacks against infantry, 3 against ogres or ogre-sized models. So this is actually a pretty decent attack. So you'll get 3 or 4 extra automatic hits at strength 4. Provided that, depending on what you're fighting in terms of initiative, it's good against ogres, less good against other elves, but they're bonus attacks. Then it's also got the Bloodrack Stare, which is a shooting attack with a range of 12 inches. It's strength 4. It has killing blow and has the multiple shots 4 special rule. Now, instead of shooting at someone's toughness to wound them, you compare your strength 4 to their initiative, which means that it's pretty good at, again, killing other monsters, as well as other low initiative monstrous infantry. Not so good against elves, but pretty good against ogres, orcs, and those types of monsters, or those types of opponents. Now the big drawback here is that she is leadership 2. So again, it's very important that you babysit her with your general, otherwise she will be running off on her own. If she ever loses a combat, she's guaranteed to break, again, unless the general is nearby. I really like the model. I think the rules work well as well. For 90 points, you have a pretty versatile unit, and I think the main thing you probably want to do with this is you can get it into close combat, but it is relatively fragile, but it has a fair amount of attacks, so don't send it in unsupported. I think if you can control her leadership, her shooting attack is actually pretty sweet. With BS5, 4 shots, you're going to be hitting on 4s most of the time because of the multiple shots long range. And if you're fighting anything with low initiative, so I'm thinking tree men, ogres, anything big like that, you're going to be wounding them on 2s. So that is a nice ability, and I really look forward to using her on the field. I don't think she's amazing, but the model is amazing, and I just can't get over how cool Medusas are. So you also have the option of putting her on the Bloodrack Shrine. So this is the alternate build to the Cauldron of Blood. It's a chariot like the Cauldron of Blood, so it can join units or it can choose not to join units. Its buff is that Aura of Agony, so you get +1 leadership, and it's -1 leadership to opponents within 6 inches. It's mounted with the Hydra and 2 Shrine Keepers, which have 1 attack apiece with a spear. I would avoid this. I wouldn't use it. If you're going to get the kit, play with the Cauldron of Blood. I don't think it's worth putting your Medusa on this shrine. I mean, other than maybe it looks cool, but in terms of gameplay, this is one that you should probably not use. Then another new unit are the Doomfire Warlocks. So these are fast cav. The models are pretty cool, and they count as level 2 wizards, and they have access to Soul Blight and Doombolt. Now you get +1 to cast for every other rank of 5 behind the first rank, and that goes up to 3, so you can be +5 to cast, but at 25 points apiece, I would recommend that if you're going to use these guys, just run the 5. For 125 points, you add 10 points for Musician. 135 points, you get a level 2 caster with 5 wounds instead of 2. They are fast cav, so they're pretty maneuverable, and I think Soul Blight is a pretty solid spell. Doombolt is also very usable, especially on fast cav that can avoid getting charged, which means they can run around the board and always find something juicy to shoot at. They have a special miscast, so if you miscast, you lose D3 wounds. So you lose D3 guys with no armor saves, which is pretty good. So you don't have to, if you really want to 6-dice Soul Blight, you really don't have to worry about it because you'll lose D3 guys. And the Prey of the Dark Prince means they have a 4+ ward against anything that's not Mark of Slaanesh. So that's some kind of special rule for fluff reasons, I guess. So you have a 4+ ward as long as you're not being attacked by something like Mark of Slaanesh, which makes the miscast even more who cares. You might lose 1 guy, you could lose half a guy, or you could lose 3 guys. But they still remain level 2 wizards. So if you have that 1 guy left there, still a level 2 wizard. So I think these guys are viable alternatives to taking a level 2 wizard. You lose out on taking the scroll, but you could give the scroll to your level 4. I would probably recommend these guys, actually. I'm really debating on whether taking a level 2 wizard on a Dark Pegasus or these guys. These guys actually come in cheaper if you take the Dark Pegasus, and they're almost as maneuverable. So I think I give these guys a thumbs up, and I recommend them. So then we have the Carabadis, if I'm pronouncing that right. So this is the alternative Hydra build. So it's a rare choice. Its stat line is pretty similar to a Hydra, except it's got a 4-up scaly skin, and it's got 5 strength 7 attacks at weapon skill 5, and poison attacks, and also, obviously it's also got terror. So this just screams kill knights, or monstrous infantry, or other monsters. Strength 7 will rip through 1+ armor saves. Weapon skill 5 is generally higher than most other monsters cav or regular cav or other monsters, so you're likely going to be hitting on 3s. So poison attacks also helps, but I mean, you got strength 7, I guess you can always roll a 1. Now it has 2 special rules. Abyssal Howl, which means that models in base contact need to re-roll successful leadership tests, which I guess will help with your fear. So I guess you're even more likely to hit on 3s, and you might only get hit back on 5s, which is nice. I wouldn't rely on it though, but it's still good. And then Feast of Bones, which is a pretty cool rule. It's more useful if you're going to snipe out a character or fight another monster. So if you target all your attacks on a single model, so again works best with monsters or characters, and all those attacks hit, so all 5, so you gotta get kinda lucky here, you get an additional d6 strength 7 hits. So this is pure luck based. I wouldn't rely on this. I mean, the odds of rolling 3-ups or 4-ups on 5 dice are pretty low, but those times that it does come in, it's a nice bonus. So again, the way I would use these monsters is, it's great in an all monster list if you combine this with 3 Hydras and a couple of flying Manticores. I'll talk about this type of list in my next video, but they're a great counter to Cav, other monsters, and monstrous Cav. So this is one of the few things that's going to rip through 1-up armor saves very quickly and very easily, which is a big plus in my book when it comes to the current meta. So again, I recommend this monster as well. Now, the last rare choice we have is the Sisters of Slaughter. So these guys have hand weapon shield, they have no other armor, they have no other save against shooting, and their weapon skill 6, strength and toughness 3, so they're not At 15 points apiece, they really don't stand out. So maybe their special rules do something for them, makes them stand out. But for me, the special rules don't make up for it. So what they've got is Dance of Death, which means that they have a 4+ ward save in close combat only. And then they have Trial of Blades. So if the unit they are fighting has a higher strength or weapon skill, so you're most likely going to be doing the strength thing, they get +1 to hit and to wound. So that could be decent. It means that you'll be hitting on 2s and you'll probably be wounding on 4s, because I mean they are still only strength 3, but it's not that amazing. I think what the issue with these guys is that they're still really expensive. They're still super fragile. They have no protection against shooting except for their shield, which is not going to do much against anything. And at the end of the day, yes, you get +1 to hit, so you'll be hitting on 2s, most likely with a reroll. So you'll be getting a ton of hits, probably like 95% hits. But strength 3, even with the +1 to wound, so it means you're wounding either regular infantry on 3s or 4s, but you're not doing anything to their armor, so every unit still gets a 3-up armor save, or still gets saves against strength 3, so 5-up armor save is going to save a lot of those wounds. So I really think strength 3 attacks are a waste when it comes to your rare choices, especially considering all the other cool rare choices. So I think these guys lose out. They just don't bring enough to the table. And then you might as well, if you like Witch Elves, you're going to use these models as Witch Elves anyway. So these get a thumbs down. I would avoid these guys. So in summary, the new monster, the Carabadis, if that's how it's pronounced, is great versus monsters Cav, and other monsters. It is a bit slower than them, so you need to get that matchup in the deployment, which isn't that hard to do considering this book has so much chaff, so much good chaff that you can use to help you deploy. So this is definitely a plus, especially if you know you're going to be fighting other monsters, creatures, Cav, or other monsters. Doomfire Warlocks are a viable alternative to a level 2 caster if you don't want the Dispel Scroll, or if you take the Dispel Scroll on your level 4. These guys have 5 wounds with a built-in 4 ward save for about a little bit more points than a naked level 2. And they're much, much faster, and you can get them right where they want them, and I really like these guys. I want to start taking these instead of a level 2 backup caster. The Medusa, strategically, it's alright. It's a very versatile unit. The shooting attack is probably better than the close combat attack. It's not bad in close combat. My only issue is that it's toughness 4, 3 wounds. That's not hard to kill. It's got better weapon skill than an ogre, but it's mostly easier to kill than an ogre, and that's not hard to do even if you're strength 3. But I would keep it near the general. Use the shooting attack more, and you can charge it in, and it's decent in close combat. Use it as a flanker. I would avoid the shrine for the Medusa. I don't see any point in mounting the thing. And the Sisters of Slaughter, I don't understand what their role is. Strength 3 is just not floating in my book, and I don't think it does anything. I think it's bad. Your core can get away with being strength 3, but from your rare choices, when you have the 3 things that are awesome that I mentioned above, I really don't see where these guys are going to fit in, and I'd be really surprised to see them in any game. So that's my summary of the rare choices. The next video will be on putting it all together and making synergistic lists. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and learned something new, and if you disagree with me, please let me know.